So my name is Christine Cisneros, and I had an idea yesterday to create this call, and I'm calling this call Calling All Patriots. So this will be our weekly call, and you're welcome to come in every week. You're welcome to skip a few, whatever you want to do. I felt compelled to do this as we are moving towards this time of the election. A lot of people, I've gotten a lot of questions about what do you think we should do, how do you think we should do it, and so as a result, I am really trying to address some things that I feel as though will help us all to be a little more connected and to also, not feel alone, and also kind of pool our energies and get some information out to people so that they know how to create a more solid community from where they are. And that's really the purpose of the call for now. After the election, we'll go into some other things, but I think right now it is quite pressing for most people to make sure we have a solid line. One thing I did notice is that basically what was going on with some of my thought processes around what the left is doing and sort of how they're manipulating the situation consistently is that they're consistent. They move in one direction. They move with one kind of gait together, and even though it's wrong and evil, it seems to me that they have quite a bit of momentum because they move together. Now, what makes it, I think, exceptional as patriots, as people that are really wanting the country to do well, and then beyond that, really great, is that we as most of us, I speak for myself, not for others, but as a conservative, I really feel as though that what I notice about other conservatives or what I notice about other people who have this common sense about not destroying your own country that you live in is that because we are independent thinkers, because we have our abilities and our capabilities to actually create things and be entrepreneurs and be people that are responsible for where we live and what we do, that we often do not move together. And that's just kind of natural because we're doing a lot of our own thing. And I'm going to ask everyone to mute if you can, please. So at this time, what I find is quite compelling is there's something that I've been listening to, watching on YouTube, and it's called The Bards of War. And this is by Scott Kesterson, who is an ex-military photojournalist. And he came up with a 9-part series about how to create a more solid community around you so that as we move through these difficult times, and really, through any times that might be difficult, not just politically, but also in terms of natural disasters or crime in your area or whatever. And I thought they were very compelling. He did a 9-part series. Each part was half an hour long. I went through the entire thing and was just completely impressed and thought that this information was very important. I'm going to tell you what the 9 topics are because we're going to be touching on some of this information tonight. The first one, of course, is the introduction. The second one was about home, making your home your sanctuary, creating a way for your home to be somewhere where you go that you are safe, not just in your emotional and mental field, but actually in your physical field, so that you have things that will support being safe in your home. Also, the third one is your environment, to be aware of what's going on in your environment. Too often, I think now there are moments when people are scared about what's happening. Just 2 nights ago, I was sitting there writing in my car, writing a short story, and along came this car towards me, and he looked a little funny, but I didn't realize why I felt that way until he hit 2 cars and took off. And the people that came out looked very scared, really freaked out. And it didn't seem like they were freaked out because they thought this was a single incident. This is a very kind of wealthy part of Seattle. But they looked freaked out, I think, because they can sense that something is coming, something bigger is coming. And a lot of them don't have access to real information and real education about not just what it is that's actually occurring right now, but what it is that we can do about it. And so this number 3 episode of Environment I found to be very, very important because this will help us to really kind of, if you're already doing it, great, but also to really key in to see where in your environment can you actually create something where other people are involved with the safety of your environment, the safety of your neighborhood. The fourth part of the series was eyes to see, ears to hear, being able to assess where there is, be a good sensor where something has changed. And I think all of us have kind of seen that around the country and perhaps in our neighborhoods. But sometimes things change. And what happens with that is that in that change, we are often, because we live where we live and it's hard to see things gradually, if we become more astute with that and become an even more sort of a keen sensor, what we'll find is that as we collect this important information at this time, that finding how things change might lead to talking to other people about, like, did you see that? Did you see how that changed? Did you see that that thing was dumped there, or that this happened? And so we don't really want to wait until something big happens to work backwards. What we want to do is notice along the way to kind of dissuade things from happening around us. Number 5, his fifth part of the series was guerrilla warfare. And guerrilla warfare is about doing things right where you are. Like, for instance, he talked about the old school way of making flyers of things that you can just put places that people can look at and say, oh, yes, I can, oh, that's interesting. And they can either go to a website. For instance, I'll say right now, one of the things that helped me out was thehealthyamerican.org, which is Peggy Hall. She runs that, and she talks about the mask and how to keep yourself in the legality of being safe in our country while not wearing the mask. And so, if I were to just go out and put a bunch of small little pieces of paper out there that have that on it, that would spark some education for people so that they don't feel desperate or alone, or that there's no hope, or how long are we going to wear these masks and I'm just angry and I'm going to take it out on the road, or I'm going to take it out on my neighbors, or I'm not going to even, I'm going to feel sort of like, what's the point? So that's a really great episode. Also, faith insurgency, making sure that we're not doing this thing, and I find this to be very important, to not be people that are looking at Donald Trump as our savior, as the anointed one, as the one that's going to take care of everything. Donald Trump is doing what he can from where he can, and he will win the next election, I'm convinced. However,
so am I. This is Phoenix.
Aha, Phoenix, sir, how are you?
Sorry, Christine. Trying to get in. It's running a little late.
You can interrupt me anytime. Always the wiser for that when you do.
Christine,
I'm just going.
Scotty here.
Oh, hey, Scotty, how are you? Oh, see here come the big birds. Wonderful. Well,
birds.
The ones I've learned from. So,
Scotty, you're alive and you're doing well. So good to hear Scotty Sachs.
Yes, Scotty Sachs.
Hey,
what a
Phoenix,
wonderful person.
Phoenix?
Great
Doing
male
okay,
role model.
brother.
Great. Well, if you guys wouldn't mind, just for now, muting yourselves, we'll go through this probably for the next 20 minutes, and then we're going to start talking about future calls and also answering questions, okay? Wonderful.
Yes, ma'am. Muting right now.
All right. So the guerrilla warfare I found to be very compelling because this truly, he gives you things you can do right from where you are in your local area, putting out information. What I find, and Ingrid and I were talking about this the other night with Phil, and that is that, nobody cares. Nobody cares about what you believe. Nobody does. Nobody. What they really care about is how you are with them. And then they might get interested in what you think. And I think when we do things on a local level, when we are the model of that and not relying on somebody to come in like Donald Trump to take care of everything, because our president can't take care of things in our immediate environment. Only we can do that. Otherwise, why would we even be here? Why would we even be suited up on the planet, right? So we help to accomplish that which is in Washington, D.C. by accomplishing that which is in our neighborhoods. And when we do that, we actually create a very solid base. So when it does roll up to Washington, D.C., there is very little question, particularly let's just talk a little bit about the Ruth Bader Ginsburg situation and the new justice. When there is such a solid ground for people, particularly after the election, this is going to be so important because as Scott Kesterson says, that's when the war really begins because that's when people are going to have to wake up. A lot of people are going to be blown away about can somebody please mute? Thank you. So a lot of people are going, their heads are going to kind of explode over this election. Whatever's going to happen, the fallout from it, we need to be able to be there and be already engaged in this community work that we're doing, this way that we are not being used, but we are available to create an even more solid base from which to work. So that guerrilla warfare is really great because you don't have to be big high tech. I know I'm not, but the moments that you can take, for instance, when the people came out to the car after that, the double car hit and run that I saw 2 nights ago, and I was able to talk to those people and slip a few things in that made them kind of think about what they're seeing and not be so scared, but actually be analytical about, oh my gosh, maybe this is really going on and I'm not crazy and maybe I should do something about it. The faith insurgency, which is to, again, build the faith, make sure that we are engaged in our faith, not just, oh, I hope it happens, oh, pray that Donald Trump wins, that's all I'm going to do. Prayer is great, but as we know, the Bible says faith without works is dead. So we don't want to be dead in the water, we don't want to be dead weight, and we don't want to be people that are setting up for slavery and death, which is exactly what the left, that's their entire agenda, that's what it boils down to. Slavery, as much as they can use you, they like you sick because they make a lot of money, and then death. So if we can get our faith going by actually showing ourselves what we can do on a local level, that is really great. Mobilizing talents, number 7, which is really about us taking what we know how to do best, what our profession is, what we are able to bring to the table, to share, to barter, to create an economy out of. This is really going to determine a lot of how we recover from all of this, because these talents that we all have, and everybody has their talents that they can contribute and be a part of and create economy out of. It's not going to happen overnight, but it is something that once we start holding that intention of how we are not going to be dependent on these horrible things that are out there, on all of these corporations who really kind of bank on us being dependent on them, once we find piece by piece how we can actually be stronger in our communities, be granular in how we spend our money, and create that way that we are not being sold these bag of goods that we are so dependent that we have to acquiesce to slavery or be subservient. This is going to serve our communities far more in the future. Number 8 is economic warfare. That leads so naturally into it. That's one of my favorite episodes because in economic warfare, what we're saying is we are going to use our dollars and our mobilized talents to actually create not so much an obliteration of other things, but sort of like a probiotic. When a probiotic is taken, it doesn't kill any cells, it doesn't kill any viruses, it simply crowds things out. It totally and completely supports your immune system so that you can deal with whatever you're dealing with at the moment. And so as we do that in our immune systems, in our economic structures within our communities, what we'll find is that it becomes easier and easier to have our personal sovereignty present, not just in Washington, D.C. and across the country, but in our own individual corners. And the last episode, which is Fighting is Everything, he really does go into a lot about building these ways in which we build our homes, the ways in which we are not going to acquiesce to this transhumanism that is on the docket, and the self-sufficiency that it's going to take for us to really move through this fourth industrial revolution, which has actually springboarded off of the last industrial revolution, which is electronics and sort of the electrical grid coming up. So these are all ways in which I feel as though are great things, and you should check them out if you feel like you want some very, very clear-cut, moment-by-moment, like what do I do in my situations. These are really great things to follow, and they will actually lift you up, because it's not just a bunch of you should do this and you should do that. It's really about our American spirit. It's about us as patriots, and it's about us being called to this planet right now to do these things that we are here to do. And I really believe that. I really believe that we have all suited up to come here to actually help with this effort and to be part of what is being created as the new fabric in this world. If we want it to be different, then we've got to make it. No one else is going to do it. Thank God, because then we get to call on what it's actually going to be. With this call, I wanted to say, I'm really interested in giving as much information as I can, answering questions, getting pieces of information from y'all. I love that. I love this interchange. It's so encouraging, it's uplifting, and it's also very strengthening of what we are all doing to move this forward, this movement forward of reclaiming our country, but also remembering, as Laura Walker of the Oracle Report, wonderful woman, very just on point. You want to check her out, oraclereport.com. That when she talks about personal sovereignty and that this isn't a reset, this is actually a rebirth, because we don't want to go back. In fact, we can't go back, so it's probably best that we not want to go back to the way things were. It will never return to that. We are not ever going back to what was, because that led us to where we are right now. So the best of what we learn from that is going to come forward. And, often you hear God wins, and that's the absolute truth. It's ourselves that we must calibrate to that so that we become part of that fabric and what is going to happen next. I also want to say, as far as real education goes, that PIR, you just heard from Phoenix there, his voice, his lovely voice, that Patriot Intel Report, he puts a report out every single day. I've been listening to him, and he's truly been quite the inspiration. You also heard Scotty Sachs of Sovereign Radio, and he has a call that he started called Prayers for 45, and that meets every Thursday and Sunday at 6 p.m., and you can be part of that prayer for sure. And if you want to look it up, prayersfor45.com has all the call-in information and codes to get on, and obviously better at that than I am. So I'm learning, and we will be very on point next week and be starting right at 5:30 because we have some of this figured out. Also, along with the Oracle Report, PIR, those are both, Oracle Report is actually, you want to go to Patreon, and you can sign up. It's $5 a month from now until January, because it's a report every day on the energetics that are happening. And, of course, healthyamerican.org, wonderful site to go to for questions around the mask, the legality of that, and the issues surrounding the violations of your civil rights, both federal and state, against your constitutional rights. She will talk about, there's plenty of videos, there's plenty of information. I always like to send out real education and nutrition for all of my listeners and people that come to calls and to shows that I have. Also, there's another channel on YouTube. It's called And We Know, AWK, and that is such an excellent thing to watch and look. And there's so much information that it's really, it's right now it might be a little bit much if you're not willing to go down the rabbit hole too much, but it's really, really good and concise. And the way that he presents that, it's very easy to understand, and really great to have backup information for yourself about not just what is happening, but why it looks like the way that it does. So there's that. As we kind of come up to this election, and this is the most important election, I do believe that, in our American history. It's also the most important election in the world. People often forget that our country holds up the rest of the world. The rest of the world is very, very dependent on the United States of America. And that's because the rest of the world has created the United States of America. The people that came here from all over the world to create this country that we have, our forefathers, we are the dream of that. We are the dream of that. And this country, as we look at it sort of as land, somebody's in Washington, D.C. tonight, somebody's in, Pennsylvania, somebody's in North Carolina and Virginia. What we see is that this is, yes, it is land, but truly America is Americonsciousness. It is a consciousness that has been long sought after from our ancestors, from those that have really thought of having a better life for their generations to come, and we are those generations. So it's really up to us to love our country, and by loving that, love is a verb, we find ways to support it in this time that is so acute, and I truly believe that with all of my heart. I also wanted to say that as we go through these calls, basically the format will be that we will have quite a bit of, some information coming, or, sort of analysis that can kind of feed into the new things that we're talking about doing, or maybe suggestions that we'll come up with that other people will have as well. And then we'll go into the questions that we got on email, like I got some questions today, and then we'll go into a Q&A. And I welcome you to do that. I'm not exactly sure, because I'm still learning this conferencecall.com, but if you want to send me a quick email, I will address them as they come in. So Again, for those who have just come on, my email is dj222productions@yahoo.com. I also wanted to say that as a background thing, I had a radio show on 1150 AM KKNW, terrestrial radio, for 9 years, and I just, after listening to the economic warfare episode of the 9-part series of County by County by Scott Kesterson and Bards of War, I decided in the middle of it, as I was talking to the station manager who was insisting that I wear a mask because that's part of their Hubbard radio edict, as it is many different companies, that I did not, as a patriot, I decided to end my broadcast there, and it was very clear cut for me. I'm not going to say it was easy, but it was very clear cut, and so as a result, I feel as though I've been protected, and that that anything I can do to be of service to you, because that's why I'm here, to be of service to you, that you please call upon me. And in these calls that we have, I will do my best to create something that actually will lift you and will give you more fortification as you patriots go out and do the hard work, do the frontline work that we're doing right now. What else? Well, let's see. I also wanted to say I had a couple of conversations before this call today, and one of the things I wanted to say before we kind of go into perhaps answering some questions is that that I have so much admiration for people who are red-pilling other people. It's just it takes an enormous amount of wherewithal and strength to do that. And for those of us who haven't been doing it for as long as, say, somebody like Phoenix or Scotty Sachs or so many others who really paved the way for us, or Laura Walker, what I can say is that that this red pilling at this point, at this time, that I would say is it is brave, and also to really, there's something that, of course, has sort of changed in the water, I would say. And as some people are baiting other people into arguments, into fights, into divisions in families, that this is a really important time to remember that there is no convincing. There is no changing anybody's mind. I mean, there never was, but really, like at this time, that's a very important thing, I think, to come to for all of us, that there's no convincing, and that there is a difference, definitely, between facts and feelings. And sometimes when I hear people come at me with how they feel, what I would say is that when you feel something, I'll never argue how you feel. If you're my friend, if you're my sister, if you're my brother, if you're my business partner, whoever I'm talking to, if you're telling me how you feel, I will never argue that. But if you want to talk about facts, then we have to have an agreement that that's what we're going to do. And I think that keeps things civil, at least, and it keeps things actually productive, because it's too easy right now with emotions running high and rampant, and we care so much about who we care about, and we care so much about what we're doing, that we don't want to have this become something that is a division between us. What we want is to divide ourselves from that which is divisive. We want to separate ourselves from that, because that really is a tool of the left. And so as we visit our families and friends, particularly during these holidays and times off, it's really important for us to understand that as we are with people, as patriots, and as we demonstrate, as we show people what love looks like in verb, not in noun, then there may be times when there is a conversation about facts, eventually. But as it is now, there's going to be a lot of people that are scared. There's a lot of people that are wanting to know why, because things aren't matching up from what they saw or said or knew or heard. And particularly if they're busy listening to, watching, and being a part of mainstream Mockingbird media. We all know this. And so as time goes on, what I would say is the ark door starts to kind of close a little on all this, that please protect yourselves and those you love by being available to them in love and spirit and in humanity, but also understand that to have a conversation about facts means that there is an agreement, there is an ask, and the way that needs to be dealt with is that there's an agreement that you've asked and that we're going to have a civil discourse. And that doesn't mean that we don't protect ourselves when it gets down to it, and that we must, but just like any gun owner who is responsible will tell you, that once you become a gun owner, what you find is that you look for all the ways that you never have to use your gun. You do everything you can so that you don't have to use it. And I find that that is also the truth about politics. And this is so far beyond politics, but truly, I will just say that for convenience's sake. I feel so great that Laura Walker is on the call, and she is such a great person to talk about vaccines, and maybe we'll do that in a bit. But because we started a little bit late, I think what I'm going to do now is look at my email to see if there's anything in here that I can start to talk about with you guys. I did get an email, and it said, I personally feel that learning ways that we can protect our own communities from the mayhem that will surely ensue at the election results is of utmost importance. How do you best feel we can accomplish that? Organize groups to be vigilant watchers of goings-on, thwart any Antifa, BLM types from entering our town, spread the word to our circles about what to watch out for, etc. And that is such a great kind of a compilation of question because we've talked a little bit about that, but to kind of reiterate what we find, I think at this time, is that it's best to avoid using your own body for anything that could harm you as much as you can. And I don't really know. I mean, it's best when Antifa and BLM, when they're doing what they're doing. Of course, we rely on our first responders, our police officers, and our military to take care of some of these things. But I think one of the ways that we can kind of thwart that as communities is to really be aware of changes. Did you see something? Be in connection with your neighbors. I've lived where I've lived for 22 years, and one of the things that was suggested in the county by county in the Bards of War was to actually, if you have a little extra something, bring it to your neighbors. You don't have to be best friends, but get to know them. Know who's around you. You don't have to have a conversation about politics. You don't have to talk about anything like that, but just knowing who's around you. And I think that is really important because when people notice something different that's happening in their neighborhoods or communities, whether it's Antifa, BLM, or an imminent earthquake, what we find is that that when we are able to approach each other because we have some idea of who each other is, that's going to go really far for dissuading anybody from coming in to do any harm to you, your property, your families, your whatever it is that's going on there. The next question, I do my small part by not wearing a mask anywhere I go, but what further could I be doing to, quote, show other citizens that the mandates are not law? So that, I think, kind of falls into the guerrilla warfare, where we can put things out there anonymously in little pieces of paper, or like I'm a Post-it queen, so you could stick Post-its somewhere, but kind of put things out there to plant seeds about, this is food for thought, really. Is this really, is this really like what we think it is? Is this really happening and we're okay with it? Is this really what's going to go away tomorrow? Or as in the case of Portland, Oregon, the governor there saying November 3rd is when she's going to lift the newly reinforced mask mandate. Because she knows that. I mean, that virus is so smart, isn't it? It just knows when it has to leave. But when that happens, when we are in the midst of these things that don't make sense to other people, those are good times to maybe commiserate a little, maybe point things out. But I would say also to put those things out there that have pieces of information that people can be alone, check out, and for themselves make a decision about what they're looking at. Next question, should we talk to local business owners and explain that by them following the mandates and enforcing mask wearing and 6 feet social distancing, they are harming their business because we will remember what they did and may choose to boycott their business when this is all over. If instead they start spreading the word verbally to customers that they won't enforce the mandates, we will support their businesses more enthusiastically. That's a great question, and what I would say about that is that I don't ever think it's a good idea to run to boycott. I don't. I think that the better thing, again, like a probiotic, buy where you know that that's not happening. People know when they are losing people from their businesses, whether it's a restaurant or a salon or whatever. they know that they're losing business. And usually what happens is that it's not really a boycott. It's a pro-action when you go somewhere else to take care of your needs and your shopping habits. And I think that if they notice that enough, they may stand up. As far as having conversations with business owners, you can. I can't see why that would be wrong, especially if you've been a patron for a really long time. And in fact, handing off information from healthyamerican.org so that they can see. There's some letters on that website. I took one into Costco and said I will not wear my mask in there, and I will not. It's a health issue, and it is a health issue. It is not right for you to be breathing your own carbon. And dirty masks, and we all know that by now. Everybody knows that this is a dirty business, this mask wearing. So from Sharia law to virus on your face, right? And in fact, all of the masks that were sent from China, thousands and thousands of masks that were laced with COVID, these are all reasons why we can see that this is not okay. It's from dark energy, and it's from the deep state. However, what we do know is that talking to other people is great, and also, making sense with them. This is common sense, right? Okay. If you are to initiate a conversation, I always think it's best not to be confrontive if you can help it. And it's always best to give somebody some kind of look, I think you have a great business. I think I've come shopping here for 10 years, and this is my question for you. But as far as boycotting, I find that to be a little bit, I think they're going to get the message once they lose customers. And, I think it's also, it depends on the situation at hand, but I really feel like that's the case. Let's see. I'm going to look and see if there's any more that has come in. Okay. I do have some more.
I just said one. This is Ingrid. And you used the term red pilling. Could you just give that a quick once-over so I'm applying it appropriately as you're using it?
Oh, yes. So red pilling is, when I first heard that, I thought of Tylenol. But red pilling is about making sure that, that when somebody is asking you questions, first of all, you're aware that they've been fed a bunch of other information, and basically the information, the conservative sort of side of things, or not the lefty liberal, we'll just put it that way, Mockingbird media, you are actually introducing them to information that is like maybe something they've never heard, but it really is the truth. It's the truth about the way things are. And it gives them another perspective to compare what they're seeing. So it sounds a little evangelical, but when you're red pilling someone, hopefully when they've asked for it or there's a proper opportunity, what you end up having is somebody that gets new information and something that may be very different from what they know, but that will help them come to better decisions about what it is that actually they need to do for their country. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that was really helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
Might I add something there?
Absolutely,
Christine?
please.
Absolutely. The red pill and the blue pill, that's in reference to the movie The Matrix. When Neo was encountered by Morpheus, and Morpheus asked him, he said, which pill will you choose, the red pill or the blue pill? You take the blue pill, you go back to sleep. You take the red pill, you go down the rabbit hole with the truth. And the truth, the red pill is the truth. And so many people have taken the blue pill, the mainstream media, but to take the red pill takes you down the rabbit hole of truth.
Yes, and that is, I've been saying red pill so long that I actually forgot about that part. But it's true, and you can't go back to not knowing. And I think once somebody has heard, as was the case for me, once I started hearing things that were like, what? It really made me angry. I was like, this is, what are they talking about? They don't know. But when I was alone with the information and looking things over, I realized, man, you know what? Maybe I don't know what I'm looking at. Maybe I do need to ask some more questions, or figure out how that actually really works. So I think that is the case. Scotty, did you want to add anything about that?
No, Phoenix covered what I would have added that comes from the movie The Matrix, and basically, when you red pill somebody, you are opening their eyes to the truth, generally on a subject matter that's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And, I will say that when you red pill somebody, you do open yourself up for oftentimes resentment, anger, because you are challenging the cognitive dissonance of somebody who believes the world is one way. Through the programming we've been given by the mainstream media, the education system, Hollywood, our politicians, they've painted the picture that the world is a certain way, and when you red pill someone and tell them, it's not that way, whether the subject matter is about COVID, or it's about human trafficking and pedophilia, or 9/11, any subject matter, somebody is firm in their belief that this is the way the world is, and you tell them, no, it's not the way it is, and here's why, and here's the evidence. They will go through this cognitive dissonance where coming to grips with what you have just told them, giving them the red pill, you open yourself up for some resentment, anger, and you just need to be prepared and address that head on, and even acknowledge to the person you're red pilling, look, I realize this might upset you. This might be something counter to everything you've believed for years. So it is a challenge.
Yeah.
When you become the educator and red pill somebody.
Yeah.
I do believe it's our obligation to red pill people. All of us on this call are awake. We're aware of various things, and it's our responsibility to educate and red pill our family and friends.
Yeah, thank you, Scotty. That's very well put. And it's so as we move into these times when could you mute out, Scotty? Could you mute out? Okay. Can you hear me, Scotty? Hello?
I hear you, and I'm muting out.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I didn't know you could hear me. So as we come to these times, I have another question here. It says, we should not threaten our local business owners in our small town, should we? No, absolutely not. I think that the moments that will come that there's enough trouble as it is. Conversations are great. Threatening, no. There's as we, Scotty, did you mute out?
Yes, I am muted out, Christine. Somebody else is
okay.
muted.
For some reason.
Me.
Whoever's phone is not muted, could you mute, please? Okay. There we go. Perfect. But as far as threatening local business owners, absolutely not. This is something that, as we learn more about how to move together in these times, that it's simply, not only is it, I think it's unduly provocative, but it doesn't do anything. It's not constructive. It doesn't do anything that's proactive for anybody, and it doesn't build anything. What we want are people that wake up to perhaps that they were erroneous for following mandates. And you have to understand, too, that this is a scary thing. People are freaked out. They don't want to lose their businesses. They don't want to lose their comforts or even their necessities or things that they feel are on the line. And that is the conditioning of the left, that you will suffer, and we will make you suffer unless you comply. We'll hurt you. And indeed, there is plenty of pain, and there's plenty of disarray. But we don't want to encourage that fear by becoming a threat to our local communities. So thank you for that question. Let's see, we have another one here. says here mask. Oh, okay. There's some information about the mask wearing, and we can send that out eventually. But I'm going to go ahead and ask you guys to unmute. That I made a big deal about muting, but unmute. And what we'll do is we'll take turns a little bit here, and maybe have some questions or comments if you guys have them now. Does anybody have any questions?
Christine, I have a comment I'd like to
Sure.
let everybody know on the call that Scott Kesterson will be on Sovereign Radio this Saturday and next Saturday. We're doing a two-part discussion or interview to do a bit of a deep dive on his county-by-county series.
Wonderful.
A chance to hear from Scott about the series itself. And the show is on Saturdays at 9 a.m. Central, and you can go to sovereignradio.net, that's sovereignradio.net, and click on the microphone on Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Central Time, if you'd like to hear Scott Kesterson go over his county-by-county series.
That's great. Thank you. And I look forward to interviewing him as well. He's such a great guy.
Christine?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, this is Robert.
Hey, Robert.
So hi. While you were talking about this Bards of War, I went to YouTube and looked it up, and all I could find was like some sort of, it was basically a war series, a historical, war series, and it wasn't what you were talking about. So, yeah, I'm just wondering.
Well,
I can probably direct you. He has changed the name to his YouTube channel to Bards FM.
Oh, Bards FM. Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah,
thank
you're
you.
looking for the county by county series. It will be on his Bards FM channel.
Okay, thank you.
I just
Thanks,
Googled county by county and Scott Kesterson, and that popped it up also. I had a hard time getting it, but county by county can bring you to it.
Good idea. Great. So, I really, I'd love to hear from you guys what's going on in your areas where you are, what that looks like, and, if there aren't any questions, maybe just, a quick synopsis of that before we end the call. Does anybody want to step up?
I have a comment and a question, Christine.
Sure.
I live in a real small town. This is Phil.
Hey, Phil.
Our population is less than 2,000, and everybody knows everybody. I mean, I am very reluctant to red pill because, I don't want to alienate anybody. So is there a more subtle way to work into that? I'm thinking maybe is there any way we could have a printed material that we could put up on local bulletin boards that might trigger some conversations?
Oh, you bet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what we can do, that's a great suggestion, actually. I know you said it was a question, but I think it's a great suggestion, and what I can do is send some things out to the group and circulate that. But, things as simple as, just little tabs of paper, kind of, like those things where you tear it off if somebody's a gardener or something, you want to take their number with you, but, something like that says, wonder about the masks and your rights. And then, you could put the healthyamerican.org, which has a plethora of information. And I think that sparks any one of these things, any one of these sort of points of information will bring somebody to a road where they can start deciding what else they want to know.
Great. I'll look forward to that.
Mm-hmm.
To that point, this is Ingrid
Mm-hmm.
of this same small town, and I was fortunate through Phil to learn that we were having some freedom rallies recently, and then it just cracked open this new world for me of other people that seem to be feeling the same way. And so if it was as little as waving a flag in coordinated efforts on a certain day and a certain time, that felt so good. It felt so much better than me just sitting at home worrying or being concerned or frustrated or talking to poor just Phil and Danny. So for me, I got hooked up with a great resource that I hope Sharon's still on this call, and am wondering if there could be some type of a clearinghouse where we could share the information, because I'm so new to this, but Sharon's had 9 or 10 years of it, and you've had 6, and so is there a central place we could go to get info and or share info?
Well, sure. I mean, I was hoping that that's what this would be too, as we connect up. I mean, this is the pilot call, so I'm hoping that that would be the case. I also know that because we're only, 41 days out to the election, something like that, that kind of going K through 12 about all this information is way too difficult. So that's why I rely on questions, because, I mean, I could talk for hours. It ain't no thing for me to talk. I'm a chatty Cathy, but I want to know what's important to other people. So what are their questions? And, then we can kind of start bringing in the pertinent information that will immediately take effect for people as they ask that. So that's what I wanted to use this for. I also think that as this sparks conversations and discussions outside of this, that like you're in a different place than I am, and so as you guys have rallies where you have flags and things like that, that there might be a place to go to, or somebody's living room or something, where that might happen on a local level. But as far as like a national and international level, that's why I wanted to have this call.
And Christine, this is Sharon. If I can interrupt there, Ingrid just mentioned me. One thing that I have done, because I've been trying to wake people up, and I feel very thankful that I've got a good maybe 7, 8, 9, 10 people that I've woken up, and I know they've woken others up. So it's exponential. But what I'll try to do with people if I'm first meeting with them and I don't really know how aware they are of things that are going on in the world, I'll try to find a topic that maybe is their hot button. Do they hate fluoride in the water? Do they really dislike Monsanto? Is there something like that they can kind of wrap their arms around, and then I can start giving them a little bit of information. And then I might say, oh, I've got a couple good articles on that. Would you like me to share them with you? And if they say yes, then I send them. And invariably, in that article or in that video, there's going to be some other little thing that they're going to go, what? That there was a little kernel in there of some other topic that they didn't even know that was something they weren't aware of. And they start watching these videos. I've done this with a few people, even with liberals that I've turned on to like cryptocurrencies, and they start following these crypto guys, and pretty soon the crypto guys are kind of talking about things that this liberal person is like, wow, you are opening my eyes to some things I didn't know. So I just want to mention that's kind of how I do it. Find a little topic of information that might pique their interest, and then we can tiptoe down that rabbit hole. And some people could go down it faster on a slide, and some people just take baby steps. But just a little bit of cracking open their brain and being open-minded, they'll start talking to others.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, it all depends on the conversation. And, I've heard this term lately, a drinking from a fire hose. You don't, look, I was a Jehovah's Witness growing up, so I am very used to going to doors and talking to people about things they don't want to talk about, okay? And what I've learned through that experience is that I'm not going to turn this into a religion, and I don't think it's a good idea to do that. I think that once people are able and willing and actually giving their permission by asking to have a conversation that is respectful, that's great. But again, when people are unaware, I find that it's best to, like you said, to kind of give them something interesting to hear or look at. But the decorum is so important because, again, I heard this other saying that's truth without tact is cruelty. And so we must be aware that these are people that we're dealing with, and people that have been told information that has run their entire lives. And so they are not the enemy, and they are not the ones to be changed. The availability of this information is so rampant now that they will have questions, and to be available to them, I think, is better than to make them available to us. Does that make sense?
Might I add something there, Christine?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Scotty and myself, Scotty did a really good interview with me about the Mockingbird media because he has firsthand experience with this.
Yeah, he
and
does.
I've told my listeners this before, and it's frustrating. We see people who are, really aren't awake, if you will, and they're following the agenda. These people are victims of psychological warfare. You really have good-hearted people who are really walking wounded. They don't know any better. And they actually think psychologically and internally that they are doing the right and moral thing. They've been lied to. They've been deceived. They are victims of psychological warfare. So, yeah, it's even tough for me. I have to, check my own self because I get frustrated with people, and I have to realize they're victims. These people have been, their minds have been manipulated by really high-tech stuff and some really heavy psychological manipulation. So don't be too frustrated with your friends who don't get it. Don't be angry with them. See them as basically, like I said, walking wounded. Now some aren't. Some totally know what they're doing, and they're all bought in. And for those, God help them. But many people are just, they truly think in their hearts they're doing the right thing. So, and it's tough to have compassion in this, but we must, right? We're on the right side of this. We're on the light side of this. We must have compassion and understanding. You don't let people walk over you. You don't let people take advantage of you or violate your rights or the community's rights. But a lot of people, a majority in this country, and it's going to be tough when these people wake up to the reality of what's going on. They are truly victims in this. So I just wanted to add that.
No, you're absolutely right. And I think it's important, just like in physical disease, you look at the disease, that's not the person. It's a disease. And sometimes you find it's hardest with people that you're close to, that they just can't see it. But they haven't been taught how to see it. And so, and again, the reason I started this call is because we all want to know what we can do. What can I do? What can I do? What can I do right from where I'm at? I love what Ingrid said about, going and having rallies where you just hold the flag. That is a huge, huge statement right there. And it's brave. So, as we move through these actions, I think that the homework for us next time we get together on the call is to bring an example of these 9 things that we talked about. What did you find helped you that you did to help out and secure your community, your neighborhood, your environment, your family? Because it's only by that we'll have a better situation at hand.
Christine, I would like to add something.
Absolutely.
Tactically speaking, the one of the best ways to red pill somebody is to tell a story. Storytelling is the most powerful way of communication. All of media is based on storytelling. So if you are, having to think on your feet and you're in a situation where you're red pilling somebody in an impromptu way, it may be a little harder to come up with a story to tell. But if you know you're going to be red pilling a family member or a friend, relate it to a story.
Good point.
Come up with a story, and I don't mean make up a BS story. I mean, tell a story about your own life. Tell a story about somebody you know, a situation you've been in, but relate the subject matter that you're red pilling somebody on by telling a story.
That is such a great thing to say, Scotty. Thank you, because people relate to that. They relate to it, and sometimes when I'm red pilling somebody because they want to be red pilled, they ask me, well, how did you come about becoming a conservative? I wasn't always a conservative. I was a liberal. And I was a Democrat, not really strongly. I just did that as de facto because I'm gay, I'm female, I'm Hispanic, and I live in Seattle, Washington. And I lived on Capitol Hill where Chaz was. What do you want? So it was very easy for me to be that because my friends were that. And in fact, I've said this several times, that they had a thing in the newspaper up there called The Stranger, and you would just take it and you would just cheat, basically, by following that list of what you should vote for, and I did that. And it wasn't until Obama came into office the first round that I voted for him that I felt sick to my stomach. And what I realized is that the reason I felt sick to my stomach was because I was making a stand for something I didn't even know that I was making a stand for. I didn't even know I was making a stand. And as I started to get red-pilled and listening to talk radio and listening to Laura Ingraham and Sean Hannity and Mark Levin and Dan Bongino and all these people that have just been at this for so long, and Rush Limbaugh, let me tell you, these things are really important pieces of information when you talk to your friends and your family members and your neighbors, because sometimes they want to find out what we know. They just don't think that they're relatable because they think it's so different. We're different. We are a different species, and we're not. We're humans. And you're right, Scotty. Having a story and coming in with that and saying, no, this is not weird. This is not off the wall. It's not crazy and Martian. This is really, really what you could have and what you could do and how you could be about your country and not be out in the cold wondering why it is that everything's getting burned down, broken in, businesses being closed, people losing their homes, all that stuff. The doom part of that is always part of the left's story. The left always talks about the doom. It always does, and I'll never forget hearing Rush Limbaugh talk about the joy of being a conservative. And I thought, that is really weird. I would never connect anything in politics or anything in a spiritual realm so much about that, about being joyful. And I tell you, it took a long time for me to even have a moment where I had joy about what I was doing because I had never been conditioned that way. I had been conditioned to expect to suffer. And yes, we will suffer in this world, but really, let's all take some joy in what we're doing because this really is an exciting time. Anybody else have any stories or any thoughts before we start closing things up?
This is Ingrid.
Hello.
Oh, can I just throw you
Go
under
ahead.
the bus
Yeah,
one
go
more
ahead.
time, Sharon? I'm just typing you an email because that list of your daily links is so fabulous. Would you talk about that? I mean, it plays right into my question about the clearinghouse and where can we get extra information?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. You want to go to Phoenix's channel on YouTube, Patriot Intel Report, PIR. That's on YouTube. And he does a report every single morning, and boy, I tell you, it has saved my day many times. You also want to go to the Oracle Report, and that can be found on Patreon, and get on that because that will give you a great report every day. Sometimes they're 5 minutes, sometimes they're 10, sometimes they're 40. Go to thehealthyamerican.org. Boy, that woman is full of joy, I'll tell you that, and she'll give you some great information on what to do. Of course, Bards FM, also known as before Bards of War, Scott Kesterson. Please, 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 I'm serious about this. If you want to be lifted and you want to be given some support in your faith, go to that and listen to the County by County series. And please go to, absolutely tune into Sovereign Radio with Scotty Sachs next Saturday as he interviews Scott Kesterson about County by County. Let's see, we also have And We Know, that's AWK, that's also on YouTube, and that is an incredibly wonderful, very, very pervasive and polished report. And that comes out, I'd say, probably every few days or so. Sometimes a little more frequent because we are ramping up into a big time. But that's a really great thing to look at. Is that good for you guys?
Yes. And then one other little, I guess, piece of shameless information that I got from Sharon Stewart today. Sharon, would you talk about the list you sent me?
Sure.
Still on?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So I have been keeping, for about 6 or 7 years, a list of sites, either sites that you read articles or YouTube channels that I have found over the years have given me a lot of information. Some of them are completely economic. Some of them are as deep dive as satanic ritual abuse survivors talking. Some are about crypto. some are people that don't feel that Trump is doing the best job he can, and others that feel, I really try to stay a little unbiased. I kind of like to hear both sides because I can get good information from both. I have my own opinions. I also think that he is going to win wholeheartedly. But I have gathered probably 70 maybe different YouTube journalists and sites that I get really good information. I shared it with Ingrid today. If anybody has any interest, just only because I've taken the time to really vet these people, and some of them I literally listen to every day, and some of them I just maybe watch something once a week or so. If anybody cares to have it, I'm happy to forward that on to Christine, and if she gathers an email list of people that have interest, we can share.
Well, because I want to encourage conversations outside of the call, why don't you go ahead and give people your email and they can contact you directly?
Sure. Okay, it's Sharon, SHARON, and I use my company address for everything. My company is Bed Voyage. It's like Bon Voyage, but bed. I make bamboo linens. BEDVOYAGE.com. Feel free to email me, and I'm happy to send you my list, and you can pick and choose through it what resonates with you.
Awesome. Thank you so
Thanks
much, Sharon.
So much.
What a great resource. Thank you. Well, if nobody else has anything to say or any questions, anybody? Nobody? Everybody?
I just wanted to say one thing. I've never thanked Phoenix for all the great information that he has provided to us. We've been listening to Phoenix since 2007.
Woo!
It's been one.
Yeah, we get a lot of great information, and I find, both my husband and I find that to do the red pilling, sometimes what I do is I just tell my friends or tell whoever I'm talking to, hey, you should listen to this. Go onto YouTube and listen to PIR.
Mm-hmm.
I've shared that many times. Because I have a lot of people that, like my family, two, my sister and her husband are they're on the Dem side, they're on the left, and it's caused a lot of issues for, it's hard because my mother just passed away a year ago, September, so, it's hard to try and keep everything calm, and, with this election going on and everything, it's like been really hard. So, but I've just told her recently to go and to listen to PIR, and I don't know if it's opening anything up, but she's kind of quieted down a bit.
Well, that is excellent.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm so impressed. Thank you very much, guys. 2007. Are you serious? I haven't been listening to myself that long. Seriously, though. Thank you.
Yeah, we followed you around.
We've always wanted to.
You're the stalkers. I wondered who these stalkers were. No.
Hey, yeah. I mean, Phoenix. I like that. I like that shirt you're wearing.
Been with us for years. I really appreciate it. God bless you guys. And you know what? I love you guys. And I do this like Christine does and like Scotty does. Just as like a community service to help.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a labor of love.
And this is great, Christine, that you opened up to do this. Now, is there a regular schedule that you'll be doing this?
Yeah, I was thinking of doing this every Wednesday. I think that's a pretty good time to do it, so I'm going to set it for now. If that needs to change, we will, but it's a good midweek thing, especially since, the left always counts on doing crazy stuff on Friday and nobody can do anything about it till Monday. So if we have some kind of Wednesday, middle of the week thing, then it kind of gives us a little bit of gumption for anything that might pop up. And I'm really just interested in people being fortified, and so that's why I do what I do, because it fills me up just knowing that other people are doing the work.
Right. And is this going to be at 5:30 on Wednesdays?
Yes, I think that's a good time. We might roll it back a little bit, but because there's some on the East Coast, and I don't want to take up all your night, but at the same time, then you have people that are getting off work here and can't really tune in. So let's keep it at 5:30. I think that's probably a good time. If you really have a difficult time with being on the call right then or staying until the end, just know that I am recording this. Well, it's being recorded, but I have a backup, and I will send that out. If you email me, I'll send it on Dropbox and send you a copy of the call.
Okay.
Great.
Wonderful.
So I have one more kind of on my mind lately that I was kind of nervous to speak forward, but so I have a we're hello.
Let's make sure we are muted out unless you're talking.
Oh, okay. So we are Trump supporters, and I ran into a gal at a store, and she had on all her Trump stuff, and I asked her, I said, don't you get nervous to wear, some of that stuff out? Because we also live in Seattle, Washington,
Mm-hmm.
and so you know what we've gone through here.
Yes.
And she has started a get-together with people that she meets, and to go out and hold signs and talk to people and all that. And she's invited me a couple times, and I really want to go. However, there's been some things that I've seen happen, and it kind of makes me really nervous to go out and do it. I mean, with the way people have been acting lately, and you just never know if someone's going to do some strange thing, or if you're going to be out there in the line of someone's anger.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been kind of afraid to wear my stuff and go out there and do it, but I really want to, and I just don't wonder if you have any suggestions or if...
Yes, I mean, I have some thoughts about that, and that is before I heard this stuff from Scott Kesterson and it being sedition against your country to wear a mask and all that, I have a Trump 2020 mask. And I wore that around for a while, and I got lots of people. It was kind of strange. It was all these young men that were like, "I love your mask. I can't really talk about it at work, but I love it," And so it was very encouraging. But I noticed that those things were kind of farther out, like Woodinville and areas that are a little farther out. And what I would say is this is a war zone, really. Seriously, this is a war zone. And I ask myself this every time I'm going to do something. Am I okay doing this and dying doing this?
Right.
Because you never know, right? And so is it better for me to have calls and do these things and do what I can in my community? I believe that's true for me. Now, some people are out there doing that, and I think that's very brave. Leaving the radio station, I really feel like God was protecting me. I feel like I go out into an empty parking lot after the show. I've been on for 9 years. People know when I go out there. I started to feel like this is a good idea that this happened anyway. But be your own. Be really. I would say go in prayer about that because there is being smart about what you're doing in the warfare, and then there's being like, I just want to do it, and I'm going to ignore the signals. And I think in Seattle or Portland or any place like that you are taking a very large risk. If you're somewhere like perhaps where Phoenix lives or somewhere in the very, very rural areas of the country, maybe not so much. But we really are getting close to this coming to a very strong, arc of danger. And so that's what I would say about that.
Okay. Yeah.
I also think that...
Wear the armor of God.
What's that?
Wear the armor of God.
Absolutely. Yeah. Very good. Yes. Thank you. Yes. That is truly it. The armor of God. And the armor of God also includes the helmet, which, you got to be protecting what you're thinking about and how you assess things, and just take a moment. That was what I would... I guess that's also something, being kind of hot-blooded, Latin person I am, I've had to learn how to take a moment and go, should I do that? And should I react? And I guess that's also like, what's the difference between reaction and response? Like, if you can respond well in that situation, great. But if you are only left to react in that situation, maybe not such a great idea, right?
Right.
Well, I think we're going to close up the call. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Just to jump in here to kind of piggyback on what you're just talking about. Are you at all contemplating having any sorts of public displays, public actions that we could support?
Oh, well, I have done some public things. I don't know. At this point, I'm very busy with the YouTube channels, and boy, I tell you, if I had not left the station, I don't know how I would have balanced it. But I would love to meet with patriots from this area I did sign up to the meetup thing for Seattle Patriots, Patriots for Trump in Seattle here. That's a great little group. But I honestly, I really, at this point, I just think that, is it better for you to be around to do the things you can do? I would love to meet with people, but as far as going out into the public, I don't think you're going to change any thoughts or ideas for most people here. It's very, very
Right.
It's very violent here.
Understood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
Understood.
and I want all you guys to be safe, right? I mean, not the safe and like wear the mask,
Right.
but like really safe. So I think that's where it's at now. Now, as just like Scott Kesterson says, after the election, when the war really starts, it's going to be even more important to be safe. But eventually, what we all have to remember is that this is all for very, very good reasons. We are going to have just an amazing, amazing country after this. And so we just have to hang tight, right? Do what we can. But I love you guys, and I appreciate what you're doing. And gosh, I just love you, Phoenix. And I don't know if Laura got on the call or not, but you too, Scotty. I can't even begin to tell you guys like how humbled I have been and how much it means to me that I can actually even be on some kind of way or some kind of side that is actually going to make any difference at all. It's truly like it's your purpose, and I feel like there's no question here. So very glad to be of service to you. And let me know what you guys, if there's something I can do for you, I'm very happy to consider what I can do or who I can connect you with. Well, as we close down this call today, I do want to close our calls, and I do want to open them, although I was a little frazzled at doing the wrong thing about the code this time. But I'd like to open the call and close it with a prayer. So if we could take a moment to do that, that would be wonderful. Dear God, we just are so thankful for those who are coming together and are so ready for the new country and the new world that we are going to be seeing after all of this is cleared away. We know this is not an accident or a mistake, and we absolutely understand that as we fulfill our purpose here, that when we calibrate to these ways in which we can uphold each other and be that support and be that light that we so want to share, that these are great frameworks to look at how to do that and how to even improve on them so that each of us becomes the most efficient and the most fulfilled in our lifetimes. Dear God, we thank you for your Son, Jesus Christ, who paid the ultimate price for us and became the answer to all of our prayers. We know that sacrifice is something that we keep in mind and that we absolutely work from, because we know that this was just dearly, dearly paid for. All of this. We know this is the dream of our ancestors. We know that America was really founded upon the natural laws of you and all the laws that you provide for us, not to create slavery at all, but to free us from all that suggests that we are not your children. Dear God, we pray all these things, and we pray very much so for the safety of our president, Donald J. Trump, and for the safety of all of the people on the call who are willing to take their time to be part of this great, great fabric that we are creating and to be part of this world that is going to look like nothing else before it. We do all of this in accordance with your will, and we pray all these things through your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. Y'all have a great week.
Amen.
Amen.
And
Thank you, Christine.
Thank you.
absolutely. Have a wonderful night. Have a great weekend. Reach out.
God bless you, sister, and everyone.
Good night. God bless you.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.